The day before the wedding, my fiancé Eric conspired with his friend. That person is notoriously ruthless and fierce. Lily has been delicate since childhood, and I absolutely cannot let her fall into that pit of fire. As long as the wedding cars are successfully switched, Lily can be safe for life. The friend hesitated. If you do this, wouldn't the one marrying that person become Evelyn? Eric replied indifferently. Evelyn has suffered a lot since childhood, she surely won't mind one or two more things. Besides, she loves me so much, she definitely won't want to marry that person, and she'll desperately resist at that time. When I appear to save her, she'll be even more devoted to me. The friend chuckled. So back then, you didn't use this kind of method to deceive her, did you? The rest of the words were stopped by Eric. And I, standing outside, could no longer stand steady. Who would have known that after I complied with Eric's plan, he would regret it madly? When Eric spoke these words with impunity, it was right after I had brought him soup. They thought I had already left, so they spoke without any restraint. Eric's familiar voice came from inside the room. She only knows these things, no romance at all. I told her not to always make soups and such, but she treats them like treasures. Lily has such a delicate temperament, she's the one I should protect. As for Evelyn, she's been accustomed to hardship since childhood. What's a bit more suffering? I stood outside, my heart aching as if being carved by a knife. The friend smiled and said, "Aren't you afraid she'll find out one day?" Eric sneered, "So what if she knows? She loves me to the bone, you saw it yourself, when that heavy truck came rushing, she risked her own life to save me. It's just letting her temporarily take the disaster for Lily, it's not like I'm not marrying her. After all, she's more cost-effective than Lily and more suitable as a wife." As he spoke, he pushed the soup to the assistant beside him. "It's these every day, I'm sick of it. Take it and feed the dog." I fled in panic, my legs that had once been run over by a heavy truck now seeming to ache straight to my heart. The wind whistled past my ears like a mockery. Running around the corner, I clutched my aching chest, tears flowing desperately. At that moment, all memories surged up. The year we agreed to start a business together, we huddled in a rental room. He drew design sketches, and I helped him chase clients. Back then, we didn't have much money. In summer, we couldn't even bear to turn on the air conditioner. When the heat was unbearable, he fanned me all night. He held me in his arms and cried, saying he was sorry and that once we had money, he would be good to me for life. I believed him. I accompanied him for 10 years. To help him secure investment, I even rejected an admission letter from an overseas design academy. At that time, I truly thought I had met someone worth spending my life with. But later, after returning to the Chu family, he became absent-minded upon seeing my fake heiress sister. He said he just treated her as a sister to pamper. But now it seems he had long been deeply in love with her. She stole my life, raised spoiled by our parents since childhood, so she couldn't endure even a bit of hardship. As for me, I climbed from the bottom to where I am today. So, whatever hardship I endure is deserved. Since that's the case, Eric, I'll fulfill your wish." The next evening, at the rehearsal dinner before the wedding, I sat in the corner, watching Eric hold a wine glass, smiling gently and considerately. That kind of smile once belonged to me. Now, it fell on Lily. She seemed to sense my gaze and walked over to me. She raised her wine glass and said smugly, "Sister, so what if you've come back? Want to make a bet? Everyone's heart is still with me, you'll get nothing." I hadn't said anything yet. She had already taken the first step. With a frightened expression, she staggered back 2 steps, then screamed, "Sister! I was wrong. Don't hit me." As she spoke, she hurriedly fell backward, crashing into the champagne tower. In an instant, the champagne tower suddenly collapsed, drawing all eyes. She fell to the ground, tears in her eyes, looking utterly aggrieved. "Evelyn! What are you doing?" Eric rushed over first. A slap landed on my face. When that slap fell, my whole body was knocked to one side, my ears buzzing. My dignity shattered like the champagne tower. I slowly raised my head, looking at Eric. That face, which had once made me devote 10 years of my youth, was now full of disgust and anger. I didn't push her. My voice was almost squeezed out of my throat, she fell herself. Enough. Eric interrupted sternly. He looked at me heartbroken. Lily has always been sensible and doesn't lie. On the contrary, you've changed completely since coming back, becoming vicious and petty, opposing her everywhere. Opposing her? I chuckled lowly. Lily's tears had already fallen in strings, her pitiful appearance perfectly landing in everyone's eyes. She cried and clutched Eric's hand, choking, "Brother Eric, don't scold sister." I don't blame her. Eric's expression completely darkened. Evelyn, his low voice like a heavy hammer, mercilessly smashing into my heart. You've disappointed me so much. I stared at him, my throat tight. These two words coming from his mouth made me feel incredibly ridiculous. While crying, Lily gently tugged at his sleeve. "Brother Eric, don't blame sister. She's just too sad. I know sister loves you too deeply and can't accept me for a while." Eric sighed, heartache in his eyes as he reached out to wipe her tears. That gesture was so gentle that I almost doubted if this was still the man who once held my hand and swore to protect me for life. "Lily, you're too kind." His voice was gentle, almost indulgent. Then, he took out a box from his pocket and handed it to Lily. "Today, Evelyn wronged you and ruined your wedding banquet. I'll use this to apologize to you." The box lid slowly opened, revealing a pink diamond ring inside. My pupils constricted. That was the ring he promised to put on my hand himself on our wedding day, while holding my hand in the rental room back then. But now, it had become an apology gift for another woman. Pain surged in my stomach. Lily coyly refused. But Eric insistently pulled her hand and put it on for her. Lily was so happy she almost forgot she was still acting. With the hand wearing the ring, she deliberately brushed aside her hair at the temple. A verdant jade necklace clung to her collarbone. I recognized it almost at a glance. It was the only heirloom left to me by the grandmother who raised me. "Where did you get that?" My voice trembled, almost changing tone. Eric frowned, finding me overreacting. "It's just an old necklace?" "Lily thought it looked nice, so I had someone bring it. Is it worth it?" My breath hitched. That was what Grandma stuffed into my hand before she died. It was my longing for all these years. Eric had known this long ago, yet he casually gave it away like this. "Give it back. It's mine." I gritted my teeth, tears blurring my vision. I lunged forward 2 steps, trying to snatch it. Eric's face instantly turned cold. He pushed me away. "Evelyn, enough. It's just an old necklace. Do you have to embarrass us like this at the pre-wedding banquet?" I was pushed staggering, my fingertips still tightly clutching the chain. With a snap, the chain broke, and the jade beads scattered all over the floor. I stood stunned, everything before my eyes blurring. Lily hurriedly squatted down, putting on a flustered appearance. "Sister, I didn't mean it, don't be angry, I'll compensate you." Her voice choked with sobs, almost making everyone around feel pity. "Enough." A female voice interrupted this farce. It was my mother Margaret. She walked into the banquet hall arm in arm with my father Victor, frowning at the scene before her. "Evelyn, since you returned to the Chu family these days, there's not a single day without trouble. How did Lily offend you that you have to tear her face in public?" I looked up, tears still falling. "Mom, that necklace was left to me by Grandma." "What Grandma?" "Some poor ghost from who knows where." "You're a Chu family member. The Chu family's grandma is your grandma. It's just a small necklace, what's the big deal?" "The Chu family has as many as we want. Lily said it wasn't intentional. Why do you have to be so aggressive?" Father also gave me a cold glance, his tone contemptuous. "Such an ill-mannered person. Besides Eric, no one would want you." Hearing my parents' belittling words, I couldn't help but look up at Eric. He pursed his lips tightly, hesitating, and finally showed a bit of reluctance, saying, "Let it go, Dad, Mom, Evelyn didn't mean it either." Lily, listening nearby, flashed jealousy in her eyes. She unobtrusively raised her hand, deliberately scratching her neck hard with her sharp nail, then clutching it tightly. In a delicate and weak voice, she said to father and mother, Dad, Mom, Brother Eric, don't blame sister, it's all my fault. Lily. What's wrong with you? Mother screamed upon seeing the blood seeping through Lily's fingers. She heartache hugged Lily in her arms, carefully examining the wound with father. That appearance made it seem like they were the real family. And I, the daughter who was lost and then returned, was the true outsider. After seeing the wound, my parents were furious. Mother couldn't hold back and immediately slapped me. How did I give birth to such a vicious thing like you? It's those lowly people who taught you badly. Hurry up and apologize to Lily. That slap was extremely heavy, knocking me to the ground with disheveled hair. At that moment, even Eric couldn't stand it. He rushed to my side and helped me up. But I stubbornly shook off his hand, looking at him with a desolate smile. Eric, isn't this all what you hoped to see? Eric was speechless and could only smooth things over. Dad, Mom, Evelyn was indeed wrong in this matter, but after all, tomorrow is the big day. Why not have Evelyn apologize to Lily, and let this matter pass? Hearing Eric defend me, Lily's eyes revealed venomous light. But seeming to remember she needed to maintain such a magnanimous demeanor, she could only follow Eric's words and continue. Dad, Mom, don't blame sister, I'm really fine. How about having sister drink a glass of wine as an apology, and let this matter go, okay? Seeing more and more people at the banquet looking over here, Mother, to save the Chu family's face, echoed, Our Lily is still gracious, just have Evelyn drink a glass of wine, and let this matter end. As soon as these words were spoken, Eric's face turned pale before mine. Because he knew that in the past, to help him secure deals, I desperately drank with clients, leaving me with a chronic condition. My body is extremely sensitive to alcohol, and even a drop could almost kill me. I can't drink. Before I could finish, Eric had turned around. He personally handed the wine to me. Evelyn, it's just one glass, don't always use allergy as an excuse. Look, everyone is watching us, you can't lose face for both our families, can you? As he spoke, he personally stuffed the wine into my hand. His tone carried a threat, drink this glass, and the wedding will proceed as planned, otherwise, it's no good for you or me. While speaking, he held me and directly poured the entire glass down my throat. The cold liquid slid down my throat, almost immediately causing a burning sensation. My throat tightened, my chest felt stuffy, and breathing became increasingly difficult. When everyone thought it was a happy ending and left, I collapsed to the ground, nearly unable to breathe. Eric looked at me, increasingly cold. Evelyn, how many times do you want to use the excuse of having blocked a car for me, blocked drinks for me, to demand repayment? I didn't. My fingers clutched the carpet tightly, my vision blackening in waves. Suddenly, I seemed to feel a pair of eyes in the banquet staring intently at me. But when I looked up with blurred eyes, I found nothing. Eric continued, I've said I'll marry you, but you can't keep blackmailing me like this. Evelyn, I've asked the doctor, it's just low-alcohol wine, it won't do anything. After speaking, he left without looking back, leaving me suffocating on the ground. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on the bed in the banquet restroom. Some kind-hearted person had brought me here, injected me with anti-allergy medicine, and restrung the jade necklace, placing it beside my pillow. Just as I was wondering who had done all this, the door suddenly opened. Eric walked in, accompanied by a triumphant Lily. She saw the jade necklace and naturally picked it up. Thank you, sister, for restringing it for me. I was worried about not finding a necklace to match my wedding dress. I panicked. Regardless, I got out of bed and reached to snatch it. Eric beside me suddenly reached out, gripping my wrist tightly. It's just a necklace, isn't it? Evelyn, do you have to make everyone unhappy on our wedding day? What's wrong with giving this necklace to Lily to wear? It's better than you going crazy with it. Eric. I almost screamed, that's my grandmother's heirloom. He frowned impatiently, it's just a dead person, are you done? If you care so much, go join her. My heart trembled violently. I never thought the person who once loved me to the bone would say such vicious words to me. Probably realizing he had gone too far, regret appeared on Eric's face. His grip on my wrist loosened a bit, and his words softened. "You've been unconscious all night. Today is our big day, hurry up and get ready. As for that necklace, Evelyn, you're the most sensible and understanding, don't fight for it. Evelyn is your sister, what can't you give her?" I glared at Eric hatefully. Anything can be given to her, but not that necklace. Now Eric couldn't tolerate it anymore. He flung me hard, causing my legs to hit the bed. In an instant, the pain in my legs almost killed me. Eric panicked. Lily beside him immediately fanned the flames. "Sister, where does it hurt again? Unlike me, blame me for being too healthy. I can't pretend to be sick like sister to deliberately make people feel sorry." I was in so much pain I could hardly speak. Looking at Eric, I said with difficulty, "You should know why I'm like this," the doctor said sequely. Eric's face changed, angrily saying, "Doctor, doctor, again the doctor. How many times do you want to mention blocking the car for me? I've already promised to take care of you for life. Yet you won't even generously give away a small jade necklace. Evelyn. You're becoming more and more unreasonable. The wedding is about to start. Before it begins, I don't want to see you again. Reflect on yourself." Saying that, he led Lily away without looking back. He's always like this. Whether it's his fault or mine, in the end, I'm the only one who reflects. I smiled bitterly as I crawled up from the ground, the pain in my legs almost making me fall in front of the dressing table. Today is the wedding day, also the day Eric planned to switch the wedding cars. Since he has come to loathe me to this extent, we are destined to be a resentful couple. He likes Lily, so I'll fulfill him. From now on, no matter the wind or rain, I'll walk alone. Thinking this, I forced myself to sit at the dressing table and start applying makeup. When I was redressed, 2 identical wedding cars had appeared in the Chu family estate. Eric held my hand and escorted me into one of them. Through the glass, I looked at him. He didn't dare meet my eyes. In his evasion, I softly said to him, "Eric, farewell forever." He was stunned. Just as he was about to ask, the wedding car suddenly started and drove straight out. Even though I was mentally prepared, I was inexplicably nervous. I didn't know where this wedding car would go. Until, the car turned a corner, and a manor more luxurious and grand than the Chu families appeared before me. The wedding car drove over the long asphalt road, tires crushing white rose petals, the slight cracking sound knocking on my heart. I originally thought it was just another setup by Eric, but when the car stopped, I saw the name of the manor, Shin Garden. I was somewhat stunned, unable to figure out what this place was for a moment. The car door was gently opened, and a pair of slender legs first entered my view. I subconsciously kept my head down, not daring to lift it. Until that low, warm voice sounded, "Miss Evelyn, it really is you." I was stunned. That voice, I had heard it. At a design competition 3 years ago, he was the judge, and I was the one who voluntarily withdrew to fulfill Eric's entrepreneurial dream. "I always remember your work flowing light from back then." He smiled slightly. "I bought that blueprint and have kept it." I lifted my head, meeting his deep eyes. Julian. The man known in the capital circle as the cold-faced Yama. My heart suddenly shook. Yet I saw him gentlemanly extending his hand to me. Julian wasn't as cold and stern as rumored, instead, he carried a gentleness that made one drop their guard. "You still remember who I am?" My voice trembled. "Of course." He tidied my wind-blown hair at the temple. "From the first time I saw you, I knew you shouldn't be buried. Whether as a designer or as a marriage partner." His tone was certain, lips slightly curved. "I'm very glad you appeared before me today." My heart, unexpectedly, trembled slightly at that moment. No one had ever spoken to me in such a tone. No commands, no contempt, no condescending pity. Just simple respect and affection. At that moment, urgent horn sounds came from outside the manor. A black Rolls-Royce sped in, the door flung open. Eric. He almost charged to my front. Evelyn, come with me. The car went to the wrong place. This is a misunderstanding. I've come to take you back. As he spoke, he stepped forward directly, reaching to grab my hand. I subconsciously stepped back, avoiding his touch. This retreat made the smile on his face completely freeze. Evelyn, he gritted his teeth, his tone trembling, stop messing around, come back with me, I'll explain everything when we get back. Julian stood aside, his brows and eyes smiling, yet exuding an unquestionable certainty. Explain what? Explain your bride-switching plan? Shut up. Eric almost roared. She's my fiancé. Julian chuckled lightly, his tone calm, but the question is, does she want to go with you? Eric was stunned, turning to look at me. I was silent for a moment, then said lowly, Eric, I didn't get in the wrong car. Julian's lips slightly raised, it seems she's already chosen where to stay. Eric's face completely changed, his voice hoarse, Evelyn, you're crazy. You don't really think he's better than me? Julian faintly interjected, at least, here, she won't be forced to drink or have her belongings taken away. Julian's expression was as calm as ever, but his eyes had sharpness. Mr. Eric. He said slowly, his tone unhurried. Since you don't know how to cherish some people, we have to let others cherish them for you. I looked up in surprise. Suddenly remembering a detail I ignored when getting out of the car. The sandalwood scent on Julian's shirt was the same as what I smelled in the restroom when I woke up. The one who saved me was him. I looked up dazedly, meeting Julian's gaze. His eyes were warm and deep, smiling slightly, as if he had anticipated this moment. Eric's face instantly paled. Evelyn, don't listen to his nonsense. He doesn't understand any of this. I have my reasons, I can explain. He stepped closer, his voice almost shaking. Evelyn, I really want to marry you. The car switching was a misunderstanding. I just wanted me to fall into the pit of fire instead of Lily, right? I calmly interrupted him. Eric's Adam's apple bobbed violently. Eric, I said softly, actually, that day, I heard every word you said to your friend. The air seemed to freeze. He was completely stunned, his pupils contracting bit by bit. You heard everything? I nodded, my expression calm, without even anger, only a thorough weariness. So, when I complied with your plan, you should be happy. After all, I fulfilled your initial wish. Eric's face was ashen, lips trembling. Evelyn, that's not what I meant, I was just too afraid Lily would get hurt, I ignored your feelings. Mr. Eric. Julian coldly interrupted, lips slightly hooked, with a hint of sarcasm. Your explanation is probably not quite appropriate to say on this joyous day of mine and Miss Evelyn's wedding. At that moment, another urgent braking sound came from outside the manor. A red Porsche sped in, and Lily, dressed in a champagne-colored gown, stumbled down from the car. She threw herself into Eric's arms, her voice tearful. Brother Eric, how could you run away from the wedding? How will the guests see me like this? How can you bear to let me be wronged? Seeing Lily's delicate appearance, Eric softened again. Just as he was about to speak, Julian laughed. He looked at Lily, his gaze meaningful. Miss Lily has finally arrived. In that case, the good thing I prepared for Mr. Eric to see, you can come appreciate it together. He snapped his fingers, and the assistant behind him immediately stepped forward, handing over a tablet. On the screen, a clear video played. The scene was exactly the champagne tower from last night's rehearsal dinner. Lily first walked toward me, smiling at the corners of her mouth, then deliberately stepped back 2 steps, staggering and falling herself. The next second, she forcefully pulled down the edge of the champagne tower. The angle was clear enough to destroy all her pretended innocence. This isn't real. Lily's face changed drastically, shrieking, this is fake. He framed me. Julian sneered, what on you is worth me framing you for? Eric stiffened entirely. His hands trembled. Evelyn, so I wronged you. Lily panicked and grabbed his hand. Brother Eric, I was afraid sister would harm you. I just wanted. Enough, Eric roared, shaking off her hand, his gaze almost tearing her apart. You made her misunderstood by everyone, and made me slap her myself? She's your sister. Do you have any humanity left? Lily cried breathlessly, I just love you, brother Eric. Besides, she and I have no blood relation. What kind of sister is she? Shut up. Eric almost hissed. But the next second, he turned and looked at me pleadingly, tears streaming down his face. Evelyn, I'm sorry. I raised my eyes to look at him, my expression calm. Eric, if apologies were useful, what would the world need justice for? Eric's face instantly paled, anxious almost to kneel. But Lily suddenly rushed up, hugging him tightly, crying like pear blossoms in rain, Brother Eric, don't be fooled by her, she's just angry at you now, not sincere. The wedding banquet has started, if you don't go back, I'll be laughed at. You love me the most, can you bear it? Eric irritably slapped her face, get lost. You're the one who harmed all of us. Take your lies and get out of here. Lily couldn't believe it, she dazedly clutched her face, unable to cry, you hit me? You hit me for her? At that moment, another commotion came from outside the manor. It was my parents arriving. As soon as they saw Julian, their attitude became respectful almost to the point of humility. Mr. Julian, really sorry for disturbing you today, but this misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Julian's expression unchanged, he spoke faintly. I think this isn't a misunderstanding, on the contrary, it's a good scheme. Because it helped me marry the person I truly want to marry. He unyieldingly pulled me into his arms, his tone carrying an irresistible dominance. Eric's face was ashen, what did you say? Julian turned, his tone extremely cold and sharp, Mr. Eric, you keep saying she's your fiancé, but you planned the bride switch yourself, forced her to drink, tolerated others framing her. What qualification does a man like you have to talk about love? His tone shifted, sneering at Lily, as for Miss Lily, your skills in snatching necklaces and men are indeed top-notch. Born with the fate of being a mistress, it's quite fitting. Finally, he looked back at the Chu couple. It seems the Chu family's upbringing is indeed, as others say, unbearable to look at. Otherwise, how could the daughter raised under their knees become mistress material, while the daughter lost for many years became a phoenix among people? Lily was red-faced with anger, just about to scream in rebuttal, when Margaret's slap immediately landed on her face. Shut up. Daring to make a scene in front of Mr. Julian. You shameless thing, haven't you embarrassed us enough? Victor was even harsher. He turned to Julian and said, actually, this girl Lily isn't our Chu family's daughter, we just pitied her being abandoned back then and raised her under the nanny's name. Unexpectedly, she really thought of herself as the Chu family's young miss, so what she did has nothing to do with our Chu family. Then he coldly said to the bodyguards beside him, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and strip everything off this fake. A nanny's daughter, how does she deserve to wear such good things? Before Lily could react, the bodyguards had roughly stripped her down to just a slip. Along with the pink diamond ring and jade necklace, all were stripped off. I took the jade necklace. Just as I was about to turn and leave, Eric spoke with a trembling voice, Evelyn, won't you look at that ring? I remember you said you liked pink diamonds the most. I searched many places for it. No need. I replied faintly. It already belonged to someone else, for me, it's no longer clean. Of course, the same goes for you. I glanced at Eric, whose knees weakened as he knelt on the ground. Eric, I've already walked with you for 10 years. The road ahead, you should walk yourself. Eric panicked. He'd completely forgotten his dignity and composure, scrambling over on all fours. Grabbing the hem of my skirt, he pleaded pitifully, Evelyn, please don't go. I was wrong, I really was wrong. Eric knelt on the floor, tears streaming down his face, his voice hoarse and barely recognizable. You can punish me however you want, as long as you come back, I'll do anything. Our 10 years of feelings, can you really say let go and let go? I looked down at him, my voice calm and unwavering, Eric, I've always been resolute in my actions. When I loved you, I could love passionately, investing my whole heart and soul without reservation. Just like when I don't love you, I can withdraw completely without reservation, parting ways with you. I've never changed, it's always been you who changed. I can love you, hate you, and even completely ignore you. Eric, it's not that you don't know how to cherish, you're just too good at weighing. I've grown tired of being your bargaining chip. So, goodbye. I resolutely pulled the skirt hem from his hand, then proudly took Julian's arm, who had been waiting for me for a long time. Then, stepping on the path of white rose petals, I walked to the front of the wedding hall. There, the media's flashlights connected into a galaxy. I held Julian's hand and walked up the steps, the jade necklace on me shining brightly. In the solemn vows, we finally tied the knot. Countless people applauded and blessed us. They said we were a match made in heaven. In the moment of the kiss, I knew I had finally grasped the hem of happiness. While Eric knelt amid the scattered flowers, his expression manic, only in his eyes was a gleam of regretful tears. Unfortunately, the person those tears reminisced about would never appear in his eyes again.